I want to come to this new thing which is called case statement. So far we know we can have the where clause, but where clause filter the rows. I'm not going to filter the rows anymore. So let's say if I have a row based filter and I want to add the condition that whatever the data set is being pulled in, by data set means, or the result set, I mean whatever the result of the query is. Now when you are printing out each row, you can uh, add a custom column. We just saw that yesterday that we can add a custom column, or based on the existing rows that it is pulling in, because when you run the select query, it has to go through row by row, 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then it is printing. When it is printing those rows, do something in the case when condition. So we can look into that in a moment. Let's start with our SSMS, and I'll come back to grab the syntax from here. This is my SSMS, and I'm going, as you see in my left panel, I don't have anything showing up. So I'll say connect to the Object Explorer. Until before I connect to the Object Explorer, all my queries are useless because I need some connectivity. And once I have the connectivity, I need to make sure that I am with the KIMT table. So this is from yesterday. Can you guys hold on for a moment? Excuse me for that. So I'm okay. I'm back here. So I have this. So while I'm fetching the record from the customer or customer one table, because we saw that we have a customer and customer table almost identical. This is the customer one table that I'm playing with for a long time now, since yesterday actually. So let's do this. So we have a customer, first name, last name, address, city. So let's add a case statement. So let's say if I want to have a business case that I want to print, let's say if I want to first write the question that if the credit, I just want to see how much is the credit limits ranges are. If the credit limits, yeah, so if the credit limit is 250, we will say low. If I want to print it on the screen, when it is printing the record, I want to print this. And then if you'll say that Control C, if the credit limit is 500, we'll say it medium, and if it is greater than, let's say, 600, which is not the case here, but I'm just going to, if it is greater than 600, then we can say it's a high. This is just a question that I'm making up. So question is that when you are printing the records, these records, I want another column saying that the credit limit is medium, low, or high. So how can I go about and do that? So what I'm going to do, keep this selection that I have, and I'm going to say just next to the credit limit, I want to add another column. So I can say just give me a moment, case when the column name. So I will going to alias my table first, so I don't have to type too much. So I'll now name it as customer or cust, case when cust dot, the column name is credit limit is equals to 250. Then we want to print low, and I cannot have a double quotes because this is what SQL needs me. And for time being, just leave it to one case. Once the case is written, the syntax of it is that case when, then this is your condition, and then you have a then clause and what you want to print in that column. And then you always have to end it. So make sure you always have the case when, and then it has to end as well after you put what you want to print. And this is only one condition at the moment. So now if I'm going to print it, and I want to name this column as, this is the whole column that I created from here to here, I'm creating a column here. And I can also create calculated columns after as well, but just keep it for now that I'm just doing. I'll show you a calculated column as well, how you will create the calculated column. But let's say if I want to say as credit range or something, credit intensity or something like that, medium, low, credit priority or something, intensity, just make it credit intensity. So now if I'm going to print it, as you see, wherever it saw 250, it is printing low. Here it is, another guy which is with the low. So you added an extra column. So if I'll comment this column out for time being, I'm back to what I used to print. This is not available in Microsoft Access. It is actually available in Oracle, MySQL, and SQL Server. I haven't seen this in Access at all. Or if it is, I think there is a replacement for it. It is called IIF in Microsoft Access, but leave it for now. Don't think about Access. So this was the first case. So what we did, just to repeat, case when, the column name on which you want to create the condition, and then once that condition is met, what you want to print, and that, and what is the column name that you want to give. So once you write when statement and you want to add multiple statement, I think you don't need to write another case again, or just confirm that. I think you need to write you just write case one time, and then every other time that you write, you just need to write when. So let's do that. When customer dot and this time it is not helping me the situation, so I have to write it. But keep in mind, one thing I'm going to show you is that you are adding one more condition to it. So when you write case statement in the actual syntax as well, you can see here the end comes to the last, right? So you add a case, then you add the first condition. If you want to add a second condition, you have to add the second. You want to add the third condition, you can add a third condition. I will come back to else afterwards. But if you are adding multiple conditions, that and has to go from here. And the column name has to go out from here because that is what the syntax is saying. So I said, okay. And the and will come now where? Actually, I shouldn't have deleted. The end will come here, but the second condition say if the limit is 500, then I'm just gonna go here and put 500, and then low has to change to what? Medium. Now if I'll run this, I have another one. Low, low, medium, medium. So everything is getting covered here. Now last condition I need to add, so I'll just copy and paste. Oh, Control Z, and then I'm gonna call this Control V. Get rid of this column here because that has to come at the end, and make sure you don't miss out on the column because this column implies that this is the whole column that you're writing here. This is getting big and fatty, but as long as you know how to write it, and then once this finishes, this column name is ending, you need to still put a comma to end. And if it is the last column that you are ending, obviously, then that time you will not need a comma because as you can see after rep ID, you don't have any comma. So I'm just giving you a syntax heads up. So I'm going to say hi, and this one will be for greater than 600. And then this column is done, and this is what my requirement was. So if I run this now, I think everyone is covered now. Medium, high, high, low. So I can create a custom column on the fly, and I can give it a value. So while it is parsing the records, it is actually giving me an extra column, which is not actually in the table, but I custom created it on the runtime. And it is, while it is parsing it, it is printing out, checking the value, printing out that. So this is very handy in case if you don't have that luxury in here. Now I will also present if I can have multiple condition in case when, but we'll see that afterwards. Let's start with this first one, and I will customize it in a moment. So the next condition left is if nothing else is there, then you can say else. You can just say, I don't know the condition at the moment. You have covered all the condition, but if somebody has a credit limit of 150, then it should be undetermined because you don't know whether it's high, low, or medium. You just say it undetermined at the moment. And once that is done, you still should not forget that the column name has to be put in and as credit intensity or something, credit underscore intensity, or whatever the credit priority or whatever the column name that you want to call. Now it is undetermined. At the moment, I am not seeing any that has been falling in this undetermined clause, but we will make one. So I'm gonna save it, run it, and obviously I'm not seeing any undetermined. Have you? No, nothing is coming up as an undetermined intensity. So this is what else condition does. So if nothing else matches, put everything in an undetermined column. I'm not a very big fan of undetermined items. Everything in database has to be fully determined and has full values. I hate to have nulls in the database because that can skew up your records. Everything, if maximum your capacity should be that all the fields should have a value, so you can have more accurate records. So at the moment, undetermined is there. So let's create a situation. I'm going to create a situation where I will flirt with somebody's credit limit. So let's say I'm going to change 4. Let's keep the top record somewhere. Let's see if I can change Sandra Pincher's credit limit. So I'm gonna just do a quick update query. Update customer 1, the table name customer 1, set credit underscore limit is equals to maybe $100, where ID customer ID cust underscore ID is equals to 227. And this has to be credit limit. Let's update. Oh, she has 6 instances. Probably. I'll have to check that out. Let's see. There are 6 records got affected. So let's check her out. 227. Oh yeah, customer 1 has duplicates. Remember, I had duplicates in here. But that's okay. I have 80 rows. But my main intention, whether it has duplicates or not, my main intention is to show you. Let me just change it to customer so you guys are not confused. We can apply it to the customer as well, no problem. This is a more cleaner record. The customer 1 has duplicates. So as you can see, I have medium, low, high, or whatever people have. And let's say if I want to just update the customer table and then apply. So now it is only affecting 1 record because we created duplicates, bunch of duplicates there. So I updated Sandra Pincher ID 227. I updated her credit limit to be only $100. So now she's coming up as undetermined. It is not looking at balance. It is not looking at the postal code or any other thing right now. Right? It is just looking at the credit limit is undetermined. So we have a case where else has been followed, but we can also say that instead of saying else, I can also say case when credit limit is less than 250, then we can say as extremely low, something like that. So in that case, anything below par can be low, extremely low. And then this undetermined will be gone because in my data analysis that I wanted to do, I don't want to have some undetermined data. I want to have a definitive data for analysis purpose. Because if I give this report to somebody and say, oops, what is this? What does this undetermined means? Then you will not know. But here, you will now know that this is an extremely low credit limit that is being provided to that guy. So up until till 0, let's say we'll never have a case where somebody have a negative credit limit, or we should provide everybody almost greater than 0 credit limit. But if you say that case when credit limit is less than 0, less than 250, but has to be greater than 0. So let's say I'm starting to introduce AND clause here, and credit limit is greater than 0, and it is greater and less than 250, then we can call it an extremely low one. And here you go. If I create the situation, yes, so it has determined that it is in between 100, between 0 and 250, so it is starting. So we can start to add multiple conditions in here as long as we know what conditions we are adding. Okay, so let's make somebody with the credit limit. This guy's 294. I want to make its credit limit to be minus $10, which is not to be fair. Minus 10 for this guy. What's his name? Samantha, which is 294. 294. Apply that. So I'm manipulating the data right now. So my data is not as clean when I imported the data on the day one. So now if I run this query, minus 10 guy should enter up in the undetermined. And that is okay now. I mean, we should not have anybody with the credit limit minus 10, but we have covered most of the bases. So these are some business rules that I created, that if we are presenting a report and we take somebody's word of mouth, or we got a document that, hey, we need to determine who has what kind of credit limit, we can have that, and we can add ranges now. So you saw that if this credit limit is between 600, so I can literally add one more condition here. So let me just copy and paste. So Control C, and I'll add one condition more here saying extremely high. And if he has a credit limit greater than, let's say, 950, I'm just making up some cases. And if it is between this range of 600 and want to get rid of this, then I should not miss out on any single keyword, because if I miss out, then it will not be happy. So what I am missing, let me see if I'm missing anything. Yeah, no, yeah, has to be out. This has to be fixed. Then I can say high. So now I have a definitive range of now I'm just leaving a small error in here, which I'm going to mention here: greater than 600 and less than 900, right? So now if I run this query, some of those will become high and some of them will become extremely high. So 1000 ones will become extremely high. Keep an eye on that. 750 will still remain as high. So the one that is going to change is these two guys, Leslie Smith, 721, and all that. So let's look at that. Extremely high for the Leslie Smith, extremely high for this guy, extremely low here. But here is the issue for which is still remaining. But I can create one issue here. Let's see. I want to play one last thing in here. And I'm going to say that Tom Rascal, who has the credit limit 250, I want to update it to 925. So 925 for this guy. Which guy? Tom Rascal, which is 314. So that guy is updated. But now if you look at the data, you will see two undetermineds. Why is these are two undetermineds? Because I, by accident or by intention, has missed a range value. So this range is going between 600 and 900, but it is not covering up until from 900 till 949. It is not covering anything. So it does not know what to do. So it does not meet this condition, doesn't meet this condition, doesn't meet this, doesn't meet this, where it is falling into undetermined. So you have to be very careful that you are not missing out on a range or not missing out on a value. Otherwise, it will fall in undetermined. And undetermined means not good for your data. Null means not good for your data. You need to fill up those gaps. Any questions on that? So this is a big fat query just because of this one column. Other than that, everything is okay. Now we have looked at that for the range value, all our logical operators will stay the same. OR operator works for specific values. AND operator works for range. Needless to say, I have explained it multiple times in different courses. Let's look at W3, what they are saying about the case when. I think if we have covered everything in there. This is the case expression, conditions, demo, case when, and the column name, and done. I think it is order by case when, so you can actually sort it as well with the help of this. So case when can come in multiple can come in different places in SQL state. But start with case when in the select statement as a column. When you go to the next levels, you can have the case when in the where clause, or you can have case when in the order by state. So if you look at this one, the last one, I don't want to touch this too much, but I'll say that the following SQL will order the customer by city. But if in case if the city is null, then the order is taken from the country for those rows where the city is null when it is ordering the rows. So it happened as you go, it is picking up the data set. It will say, though, okay, it is missing some information. So I should refer back to another column and get the value from there. Let's try one thing out. Just going to try one thing here. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's put it high, and then I'll explain to you what I have done. So let's say it's not a practical thing, not a practical scenario again, but let's say in this range, when I'm working on it, I'm going to say that when you hit this range, instead of printing high, print me the value of balance, just for happiness sake. So I went on and said balance. But keep in mind, based on these thens, it is determined that this value that you are printing in these columns, it looks like they are textual values. So it has made some assumption that you are printing the textual values, and all of a sudden you are printing a numeric value, which is this numeric column. So it will start to give me an error. It ran for the first one. For the first guy, it says medium. Okay, because it needs to say medium, but it's a textual value. Then you said for this guy, when there's a high value supposed to be printed, you change it to be balanced, but balanced in the numeric value. So when it hit that, it got stumbled upon and it did not print out anything. So let me just run it. It was tried for the split of moment, it tried to print the records for me, but immediately says, I have an issue. I cannot, I have made an assumption that this is a textual value or the varchar value, but I stumbled upon to see a numeric value there. So you says that, okay, if it is this problem, that's okay. Can you kindly cast this value into varchar, because I don't agree with your assumption. Convert this value. I want to print the value, but while you are printing the value, cast this value as a as a string or a correct or a text